My name's Ethan, and this happened when I was 8 years old. Even now, at 27, I can't sleep without at least one light on. My girlfriend makes fun of me for it, but she doesn't know. She's never seen what I saw that night. We lived in an old farmhouse just outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania. 2 stories, creaky floors, that faint smell of damp would no matter how much my mom cleaned. My room was at the very end of the upstairs hallway, furthest from my parents' room. It was the smallest bedroom in the house, but it had something no other room did, a walk-in closet. I hated that closet from the moment we moved in. Even when the rest of the house was warm, it always felt cold inside there, like the air didn't belong. My dad said it was just because of poor insulation, but he didn't have to sleep 10 feet away from it every night. The first few weeks were normal. I'd close the door before bed and wake up to find it slightly open. My mom said it was probably the air pressure changing when doors opened or closed in other parts of the house. That made sense, until one night, when I heard something breathing from inside. It was past midnight. The house was quiet except for the ticking clock on my dresser. Then, from the darkness of the closet came this faint, wet sound, like someone exhaling after holding their breath for too long. I pulled the blanket up over my face and just laid there frozen. The breathing didn't stop. It grew slower, deeper. I wanted to call for my mom, but I couldn't move. I didn't even blink. After what felt like forever, it stopped. Then came a small click, the sound of the closet door latch releasing. When I peeked out, the door had opened just a few inches. I couldn't sleep after that. The next morning, I told my dad. He laughed and said maybe I dreamed it, but I knew I hadn't. So that night, I decided to prove it. My dad had one of those old Sony camcorders. I set it on my dresser, pointing straight at the closet door. I told myself I'd show them the next day. Show them I wasn't crazy. At first, nothing happened. I lay there staring at that red recording light until my eyelids felt heavy. I must have drifted off around 1:30 a.m. Then something woke me up. A sound I'll never forget. Scrape, like nails dragging down wood. Slowly, deliberately. I sat up. My eyes adjusted to the dark, and I could just barely see the outline of the closet door. The handle trembled, once, twice, then turned on its own. The door opened an inch, then another, and that's when I saw it, a hand. It was pale, long, with fingers that seemed to bend too many times. It reached out slowly, brushing against the door frame before pulling back into the darkness. I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. My throat locked. I remember crying silently, staring as the door closed itself again with a soft thud. The next morning, I went straight to the camera. My hands were shaking as I rewound the tape. The footage started normal, me getting into bed. Then, around 2:17 a.m., the door moved, all by itself. I could see it open slightly. Then a hand, just like I remembered. It was there on the screen. Proof. But right as the hand appeared, the video glitched. Static filled the frame, and then the tape cut to black. When I showed it to my mom, the screen stayed black. The entire recording had been wiped. That night, my parents left the hallway light on for me. It didn't help. At around 3 a.m., I woke to that sound again. The breathing. It was closer this time. I sat up, and my eyes went to the closet. The door was wide open. Something moved inside. I could see its shape. Hunched, crawling. Too big to fit through the doorway. It whispered my name. Ethan. The voice was high-pitched, like a child's, but it came from something large. The whisper stretched into laughter, breathy. Broken laughter that didn't sound human. I screamed. My dad burst in seconds later and turned on the light. The closet door slammed shut on its own so hard the frame cracked. The next morning, my dad noticed scratches on the inside of the door, for deep lines that hadn't been there before. He told my mom it must have been from a raccoon or something that got stuck in the walls. But when the handyman came to check the next day, he said something strange. The scratches weren't carved inward. They were carved outward. We moved out 2 months later. My parents said the house needed too many repairs, but I knew the real reason. They'd started hearing it too. Footsteps in the hallway, voices whispering from behind walls when nobody was home. Years went by. I tried to convince myself I had imagined everything. But last month, my mom mailed me a box of old stuff she'd kept from the house. School photos, toys, that kind of thing. At the bottom was the old camcorder. I didn't even remember she'd kept it. It still had a tape inside, labeled in my dad's handwriting, Ethan's room. I hesitated before pressing play. The screen flickered, then showed my old room. The angle was the same, facing the closet. It was dark, but I could make out the faint shape of the door. It was closed. For the first 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the door began to move. A shadow crept across the floor, long, thin, almost spider-like. The image distorted as if the camera lens was melting. And then, clear as day, a face leaned out from the dark. Its skin was grayish-white, its eyes wide, the same size and color as mine. It smiled, and then, in my own voice, the video whispered, "Don't close the door this time." I dropped the camera. It hit the floor and shut off. When I looked up, the closet door in my apartment, the one that's always closed, was open. Just an inch. That was last night. I haven't opened it yet. I don't think I will. But every so often, I hear breathing coming from inside. Not fast or frantic. Just slow and patient. My name's Lena, and this happened when I was 9 years old. It's been almost 20 years, but I still flinch whenever I hear tapping on glass. I grew up in a quiet town in Oregon, the kind of place that looks perfect in postcards, wide streets, trimmed hedges, everyone friendly. My parents had just bought a small blue house at the edge of a cul-de-sac. My room faced the backyard, overlooking the woods that started a few hundred feet away. During the first few months, I loved it there. I'd sit by my window and read until I got sleepy. My mom always said I looked like a little librarian. I remember thinking nothing bad could ever happen in that town. I was wrong. It started one Wednesday night in late September. The house was quiet, my parents asleep, when I heard it for the first time. Tap, tap, tap. 3 soft knocks against my window. I froze. It was such a clean sound, like fingernails on the glass. At first I told myself it was the wind or maybe a bug hitting the pane. But when I looked up, the tapping stopped, instantly, like whoever did it was watching me. I crept closer and peeked through the curtain. Nothing. Just the dark outline of our yard and the faint shimmer of the woods beyond. I told myself I'd imagined it and went back to bed. The next night it happened again. Same rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. This time I turned my lamp off before I looked. That's when I saw him. A man stood outside the window, half hidden in the shadows. His face was pale and long, his hair slicked back, and his smile. That's what I remember most. It was too wide, stretching almost ear to ear, like someone had pulled the corners with hooks. He pressed his hand to the glass, slowly dragging it down until his palm squeaked. Then he tilted his head and mouthed something. I couldn't read his lips. I screamed, and when my dad ran in and flipped on the light, the man was gone. The police came and walked the yard. No footprints, no signs of anyone being there. They said it was probably some teenager pulling a prank. But no one else in the neighborhood saw anything that night. I slept in my parents' room for a few nights after that. Everything was fine until the following Friday. Around 2 in the morning, my mom shook my dad awake. She'd heard something, the same tapping sound, but this time it came from their window, By the time my dad looked, the man was gone again. That weekend, my dad installed new locks and motion lights. He told me the man wouldn't come back, but he did. I remember because it was raining hard, the kind of rain that drowns every other noise. I was reading in bed, trying to ignore the thunder, when I saw a flash of movement outside. He was standing in the rain, soaked head to toe, still smiling. The water ran down his face, but his expression never changed. He raised one finger and drew a heart on the glass with the tip. Then he pointed at me. I screamed for my parents again. When they got there, the man was gone, but this time he'd left something behind. The small stuffed rabbit I'd lost a month earlier. It sat on the window ledge, drenched, its head twisted to the side. My parents called the police again, but they didn't find anything. They told us maybe an animal dragged the toy back somehow. I didn't believe it. For weeks afterward, I refused to sleep alone. My dad set up a baby monitor in my room, so they could hear if anything happened. For a while, things were quiet. Then one night, the tapping started again, but slower this time. Tap a pause, tap tap. When I looked, the man wasn't outside the window anymore. The sound was coming from behind me. I turned around, and for a split second I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. There was movement in the dark corner near my closet. I switched on the lamp, and the light caught him mid-step. He was inside my room. His clothes were dripping wet, puddles forming under his feet. He stared at me, tilting his head slowly until it almost rested on his shoulder. Then he whispered, "You shouldn't have locked me out." I screamed so loud I don't remember running. My parents later told me I bolted down the hall before they even reached the door. When my dad went in with a baseball bat, the window was open and rain was blowing through. There were muddy footprints on the carpet. They stopped right in the middle of the room and didn't lead anywhere else. After that, we packed and stayed with relatives for a week. When we came back, my dad nailed the window shut and started making plans to move. A few days before we left, something strange happened. Our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Cooper, came by holding an envelope. She said she found it in her mailbox, but it was addressed to us, specifically to me. Inside was a photograph. It was me, asleep in bed. The angle was from outside my window. On the back, written in smudged pencil, were the words, "You looked so peaceful." We moved the next morning. For years, I tried to convince myself it was all a dream. My parents refused to talk about it. Life went on. Then, when I was 23, my mom sent me a newspaper clipping from our old town. The new owners of that blue house were remodeling the basement when they found something sealed behind the wall. An old sleeping bag, a flashlight, food wrappers, and dozens of photographs. Every photo was of children, all taken through windows. The article said police suspected the man had lived beneath the house for years, sneaking out at night. They never caught him. I keep one of the photos from that article locked in a drawer, the one that shows my old window. In the reflection of the glass, you can see me asleep, and behind me, a shadow standing in the corner. But the detail that haunts me most, if you zoom in on the reflection, you can see his face, smiling directly into the camera. My name's Daniel, and this story has haunted me since I was 10 years old. Even now, as a grown man, I can't sleep with a baby monitor in the same room. The sound of static, soft and whispery, still makes my chest tighten. This happened in 2003. In a small town in northern Pennsylvania. My little sister, Mia, was born that summer. She was a quiet baby, barely cried, always smiling, and my parents adored her. I was the older brother, 10 and proud, and my job was to help watch her when my parents were busy. That's how I first started hearing him. We had one of those early baby monitors, cheap, plastic, with a constant hiss of static, and a single green light that flickered when sound came through. My parents kept the receiver in their room, but they also gave me one so I could hear Mia when they were in the yard or making dinner. The first few nights, the monitor only carried soft coos or the rustle of blankets. But then, one night, it started picking up something else. I was lying in bed reading comics when I heard it, a faint whisper through the static. At first, I thought it was my parents talking downstairs, but then the voice grew clearer. It was a man's voice. He was whispering, slowly, almost singing. "Hush now, little girl. Hush now, little one." My stomach dropped. The words came through the monitor. I ran to my parents' room, but they were asleep. The light on their monitor was dark, no sound coming through on their end. The next morning, I told my mom what I'd heard. She smiled and said the monitors sometimes picked up nearby baby frequencies, maybe from another house, but we didn't have close neighbors. The nearest home was across the woods, half a mile away. That night, it happened again. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the voice whisper, "You're such a pretty baby, so small, so sweet." The words made my skin crawl. I ran into Mia's room. She was fast asleep, but something was off. The window above her crib was open. I was sure Mom had closed it. I shut it, locked it, and turned on the nightlight. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next week, I started leaving the monitor off, but curiosity got the better of me. One evening, I turned it on again, telling myself I'd prove it was just interference. At first, nothing but static. Then a faint tapping sound. And then the voice again. This time it wasn't whispering. It was breathing. A slow, heavy inhale and exhale, like someone standing inches from the microphone. I remember holding my breath, straining to hear. Then, very softly, the voice said, "Daniel." He knew my name. The monitor slipped out of my hands. I ran to my parents again, crying. My dad checked Mia's room, every corner, every lock. Nothing. He unplugged the baby monitor and told me to stop scaring myself. For 2 nights, things were quiet. Then, around 3 a.m. on Saturday, the monitor in my parents' room suddenly crackled to life. My mom said it woke her instantly. She thought Mia was crying, but what came through wasn't crying. It was laughter, a man's low laugh. When my parents burst into Mia's room, she was lying awake, staring toward the window, smiling. The next day, Dad replaced the monitor with a new one, digital, supposedly interference-proof. But that didn't help. The following week, I woke to my dad yelling. He'd found muddy footprints on the carpet below Mia's window. They started from outside and ended right under her crib. The window was unlocked again. He called the police, who searched the property. They said it was probably a stray animal or some prank, but the prints were barefoot. That night, my parents put me to bed early and stayed up watching the monitor. I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, I crept out to the hallway. I could see their door cracked open, light spilling into the hall. Through the gap, I saw my dad staring at the receiver, frozen. The voice was back. "Don't cry, Mia. Daddy's here." But it wasn't my dad speaking. My mom gasped, whispering, "It's his voice." And she was right. The voice sounded exactly like my dad. My mom rushed to Mia's room. Dad grabbed his gun. When they opened the door, Mia was sitting up in her crib, giggling, and the closet door behind her was half open. When my dad flung it open, a blast of cold air hit him. No one inside, but the smell, damp, sour, like old dirt, filled the room. That's when they noticed it. Behind the crib, hidden by the dresser, was a small vent, an old crawlspace entrance my parents had never seen before. Dad sealed the vent that night, but it didn't stop. The next evening, I woke to the static again, faint but rhythmic, almost like breathing. I tried to ignore it, but then the voice whispered, "He shouldn't have closed the door." I froze. "You shouldn't have told him about me, Daniel." The voice was angry now, raspy, shaking the speaker with static. I screamed for my parents. Dad came running, ripped the monitor from the outlet, and smashed it on the floor. We all slept in the living room that night with the doors locked and the lights on. The next morning, Dad decided we'd leave for a few days to stay with my uncle. But before we left, he wanted to check the crawl space himself. He pried off the cover. The smell was worse now. He shone a flashlight in and saw something that made him pale. Old blankets, empty cans, candy wrappers, and a baby monitor transmitter, the missing one from Mia's room. Someone had been inside the walls, listening to us. The police came again, tore through the crawl space, but whoever had been there was gone. They said it looked like someone had been living under the house for weeks. We never found out who it was. After that, my parents sold the house. We moved to the city. Mia grew up fine. She doesn't remember any of it, but I do. Every sound, every whisper. For years, I had nightmares about the voice. Sometimes I'd hear it in my sleep, saying my name. Then, about 5 years ago, I got curious. I looked up our old address online. The house had been resold again. Out of habit, I checked local news for that street. What I found still makes me feel sick. A family living there in 2016 reported strange noises in their walls. The mother said she heard crying through the baby monitor. And one night, a voice whispering, "Don't cry, I'm here." When police searched the crawl space, they found a man living there. Early 50s, malnourished. He'd been squatting for years, moving between nearby homes through connected vents. Among his belongings were dozens of cassette tapes labeled with dates, recordings of families sleeping. One tape was labeled Mia. They never released the man's name, but the detective who caught him said he claimed he'd been taking care of the children while their parents slept. When I read that, I felt something twist inside me, because for years I'd blamed myself for turning on that monitor. I thought I'd imagined the voice, but now I know he was real. He'd been watching us, hiding in the walls, whispering through the static. Sometimes, late at night, when my apartment is quiet, I still hear a faint hiss of static. Maybe it's the fridge, maybe the pipes. But every so often, when it's really silent, I swear I hear it again. Hush now, little one.